Okay, so today's sticky buns or cinnamon rolls are on the menu. You're gonna need a kneading dough machine if you have one. It works really fine to do with that, and just get it started with the small whisk, and then you do the rest by hand. So 2 cups of milk, 1 butter stick. The butter needs to be melted, and the milk needs to be a bit as warm so you can stick your finger in it without burning yourself. So that would be,
37 degrees, right?
35 degrees Celsius, 90-ish. You can still stick your finger in it. So we'll start with that. I'm going to use the microwave today. It works absolutely fine to do it on the stove as well. Okay, so when you heat the milk and the butter up, not too hot, because if you do it too hot, the yeast will die and your buns won't race, and you'll get hockey pucks that you can play with out in the yard instead. Okay. So the next step for preparation is to mix the yeast with the other dry ingredients. And to get this even, you don't want to put all the flour in at once, because that way you don't always, it can get dry as well. So I start with, usually I do this in deciliters. So I'm going to take half cups. So I'm going to take 5 half cups. So 2.5 cups of flour. Right down the pan. That was right now. And even them out. 3, 4, 5. And then it's half a cup of sugar, and you can obviously do half sugar, half other kinds of sweeteners and stuff, but you have to have some real sugar, otherwise the yeast won't rise, because the yeast eats the sugar and produces the gas that makes the whole dough rise. So then you need to have real sugar in it. You can't just go substituting. So there's 1/2 cup of sugar. And this is already mixed half-half, so that should be fine. And then 3 packets of yeast. Cut them open, put them in there, stir it all up. Okay? So you're going to need 20 cupcake liners and put them on a sheet like this. And yeah, so you go 5 by 4. 5 by 4. So you get 20 on one plate. Because this will make 40 buns. 40? Wow. 40. That's a lot of sticky buns. It is, but you put them in the freezer and take them out and just defrost them in the oven at low temperature. And they'll be like newly baked every time. Like that, and then you just fill up the whole pan. Okay, so milk is warmed up, butter has melted. It sits up top. That's fine, it doesn't matter. But when you test it, whether it's too warm or not, you might want to stir it, otherwise you'll get butter all over your finger. So stick it in there, and if you can hold it in there for 10 seconds without it starting to get a wee bit too hot, then it's fine. Because the bowl over there is kind of warm or cold, since it's metal. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna flip the thing down. I'm gonna start pouring this in. Lock it in place. Good. And we'll start the machine on low. Stand up. Moment. So see now all the flour's just being whipped together with the sugar and the yeast and cardamom seed, or ground cardamom. So you just pour all this fluid in here, little by little. And it's gonna get real slushy, so we don't want it to stir too quickly. Okay, there we go. And you want to make sure that sits and runs until all the lumps are out, because that's how you get an even dough. Well, Keith would know this, since he bakes a lot, but
What would you do if you didn't have the machine?
if you don't have the machine, you would go like with the small handheld one, and you do this part first, and then you'd add on flour until it doesn't like really can like drive any longer, and then you take over with your hands.
Okay.
You just take all the hooks out, and you keep on doing it by hand. So, as far as I know for my Swedish flour, there's a wee bit of difference between the two. I usually need just as much more flour as I already put in. So I already put in 2.5 cups. So most likely there's going to be another 2.5 cups in here. But since it's different every time, okay, you add the flour a little at a time from the really just the batter into the dough. Once it's starting to get stringy, it's starting to like hold on to itself. And depending on where your machine, this one splashes flour all over the place. You add a little at a time. And you also want to add a little at a time so you don't get too much, because then they'll have dry sticky buns and they won't be sticky at all. And that won't be fun. So just add a little, and once it's starting to loosen from the walls and hold together in a lump, that's when the dough is starting to be ready. See how it's starting to let go? And let the machine work the dough. So add a wee bit more here. The machine is not liking this. It's working hard. See how it's let go of the top part of the bucket now? Means we're close. Let's go around the flour.
And is the flour even getting into the middle part now? Or?
Yeah, it does. It gets kneaded in there. But you don't want, it's sensitive, so you don't want to go too quick. So now it's starting to let go of more of the bucket. Just like a wee little bit more. And that should probably be it. And that would be about right. This is my fifth scoop. Woo! Somebody's watered that flour in it.
And what's over for flour?
It'll be fine then. Alright, so the best way of testing this to see if it's ready is to stop the hooks. Of course, you don't want to get stuck in there. Just take your finger and dab it, and if it doesn't stick to your finger, it's done. Perfect. So I'll just put that flour back in there, and now we'll undo the hook, unplug the thing, just cause, and just push the dough off the hook, and if it's good, it should just, it'll be possible to just push it off the hook. It'll let go by itself. Back in the bucket. This is gonna be good. Alright. There we go. There. And this needs to sit and rest for a bit. And for it not to stick to the bucket while it's resting, just dust a little flour on top. And cover it with a towel so it doesn't get a draft on it. That way it evens up smooth, more even. Okay. Okay, so now the dough has risen for about 30 minutes. A wee bit less actually, since this was fast action yeast. What I'm going to do now is just toss it onto the table and knead all the big bubbles out of it. The small ones I don't want to leave in, but I don't want any big holes in my dough. And then I'm going to divide it in two. And a wee bit of flour on the table and some on top. And on your hands. And just push all the big air bubbles out of it. And if you have a sturdier table, go for that. Because this one is kind of... Everything is jumping. Yeah, because this table is not as sturdy. No, it's not going to help any. And you don't want to make sure the dough don't stick on the table. Divide it in about half. You can use an ordinary food knife or baking scraper, are really good. Stick the other part to the side. And start with flattening it out a bit. Get some flour on it, not too much. And then you take your rolling pin and you keep working it until it gets rather thin and as square as possible. I'm going to show you two different versions of doing it. One fancy and one plain. Now, I don't like this kind because the handles are going to get in my way. I prefer just an ordinary roll. You can use a wine bottle or whatnot if you don't have a rolling pin. They work fine too. Just get the paper label off and you can roll it out with a wine bottle. The square cylinder ones. Yeah, I know. Oh, this is hard one-handed. You just keep going until it has about a rectangle size. You want to keep these edges as straight as possible and the edge closest to you as straight as possible. This one is fine if it's a bit wavy. It's going to go in the middle anyways. Let's try this. Looks like she's done it before. Oh, really? Don't say. Alright, time for filling. Pause it. So there's two different ways of doing the filling in the cinnamon rolls. Usually I spread the butter on, then I sprinkle sugar and sprinkle cinnamon. But I only had frozen butter because I forgot to take it out in time and make it room temperature. So I went to like defrost it a bit and ended up melting it, of course. That's the way things goes when you're trying to show stuff off. So I just mixed the sugar and the cinnamon in the butter and let it sit. So now I got this nice puree that I stick on. And you just spread it out evenly throughout the whole dough, like spreading a sandwich. Good boss. Alright, so we spread the filling evenly. It doesn't have to be thick because there's going to be many layers of it. So the next step is just roll them up. You start away from you and just start working the edge a wee bit. And go back and forth. Don't do one side at a time because then you're going to end up in trouble. And if it sticks to the table like it did there, just take a wee little bit of flour on the table and you can use the scrape and just push a bit and it'll help it come loose. And I've got a crack in this table too, so I might have trouble there. Haven't pushed the dough into it.
Of course, Daisy.
We're filming. You just try to roll it as even as possible and as tight as possible. You don't want any air pockets in the roll. And this is why you want the edges as straight as possible. And once you're come on. Stay on there. And you'd like to have a square table. That might help too. Okay. Now that I've done the whole roll, I'm gonna put it up like this. Gonna pat down the seam. You can even pinch it a bit so it stays together. And you want to like sort of smack it evenly thick. And you can. Ooh, sorry. You got a flower bath.
Shower.
Just, just want to roll it a little, get it tucked together, and while you're rolling it, sort of push it together so you get bigger buns. Okay, so this is half the dough. This should make 20 rolls. So estimate the middle, cut it. Estimate the middle. 5 buns out of each. And then you have a tray. Good to have a closer, but small areas. You stick them up up the side, like this. Okay, you can pause now. Okay, all of them in one tray is on. So now they need to sit and rise for about 10 minutes, 15, 20 if you want to. Have them real big and fluffy. Under cover, of course. Preferably on the stove where it's a wee bit warmer. Go! Okay, so this time we managed to soften up the butter without melting it. So this is what I would usually do, the simpler way. Just spread the butter evenly. Okay, pause. Okay, good. So now, got all the butter spread out all the way out on the edges because you want filling on the edges too, and it won't stick if you don't have butter in. So this is what I usually do. Just go spread the sugar and go the edges. A wee bit wetter.
Make it rain, make it rain, make it rain.
This kind of real practical.
Sugar rain, and make sure all the dough gets some.
Kind of practical package for the sugar.
Yeah, sort of. And you do the same with the cinnamon. Dust it up from high, that way you don't get so many lumps. And just, try to get it even as possible. And all the way out of the edges. That should be fine. Okay, you're getting the fancy version now. When you have a party and you want them to look awesome, not just like good, this is what you do. You take half, like make a little dot if it helps you, make like a line down the middle, because that's where you want to aim it. This filling is really good. Take the top part, fold it down to the line. No rolling this time, we fold it. And same here, edges straight as possible, and pat it down and pat the bubbles out of it so that no air bubbles. And you do the same with the bottom. Make it go across the other one so they interlock. And hopefully it won't stick to the table too much. And if it does, just, bend it a little bit. And this is a problem. So, but I can fix it. We just overlap them. And of course I put the rolling pin away too early. So, in the cabinet. Now, again, pat all the air out of it. You don't want air pockets in here. You want the two sides of the dough to stick to each other. Like this. And the seam, make sure you really pat that down real well so it doesn't break. I think I'm fine. Thank you for getting it for me though. And get the wire bubbles out. Okay. So we're going to make 40 out of this one as well.
20.
40 of them. So I go down the middle again. I mean 20. So we get 40 in total. So that's the middle. And these ones are going to be a wee bit smaller, but it's fine. Okay. So I guess that's about an inch. A little less, a little more, somewhat. Gonna show you on 5, and I'll do the rest. Alright, so you got the strip. You loosen it from the table, slowly, so it holds. Then you put it down, and you roll it, so it gets a nice twist. Then you hold it up, hold it with your fingers, hold that piece between your two fingers, twirl it around, and stick the top down the middle and pull it through. And now you got a seriously pretty, nice, festive bun. Again, pull it up, grab the end, roll it, hold the end down, twist it around, put it between your fingers, and pull it through. Make sure the twists are on the bottom.
Film her fingers.
Yeah, fill my fingers. That's the important part.
Yeah, I'm doing that.
Roll, hold, twist around, spread your fingers, pinch it, pull through, and stick it in the cup. Make sure the ends are on the bottom. Here you go. One more, slow-mo. Hold it. Roll the other end. Hold the two with the thumb. Roll it around the edge. Spread your fingers a wee bit. So you get a hole. Tuck the end through, pull it through, and then stick it in there. And let go of the table. Roll. Twirl. Put through. Bun. Pause. Okay, all the cinnamons are done. That plate is going to sit and rise. This one has risen quite a lot. So we're almost about to, like, you know, put some egg yolk mushed up on top of them to get that golden brown color. And while we're waiting for the last ones to rise, we are going to take care of that mess, this mess, and start coffee. Because by the time the coffee is done and this is messed up, the first buns are going in the oven for 8 to 10 minutes, and then we'll have a really good, super yummy afternoon coffee with cinnamon rolls.
I'm on orders here. I get to help out. I wasn't involved in this project. Now they're all dragging me into it. Got her. Here we go. Whip up the egg like this, real hard. Should all be even. Homogeneous is the word he's looking for. Homogeneous. Okay, now. Stop.
Okay, now they've risen. They've gotten a bit bigger size there. So what we do now is we brush it gently with the egg yolk. So on top and around. Ooh, this brush was way too hard. Be careful so you don't flatten them, because now when they're risen, they can flatten easy. Find a soft brush if you have one. This was way too hard. You want to be able to, like, sort of caress the on here. Okay, du kan passa. Not all that much softer, but flatter. Okay, found another brush. It's flatter, makes it easier to put it on. Make sure you get some down around the sides, because this is what's going to give that golden color to the buns. And you just keep on brushing it onto every single one of them. Stop. Okay, at home I would use like pearl sugar, so it's sort of like just lumps, small lumps of sugar. I found some white sprinkles. You can use ice cream sprinkles or whatever, or colored ones. You just sprinkle some on top, make them look pretty, And also, of course, a little sweet crunch doesn't do you any harm. All right, so now that they're all sprinkled, show the buns. They're ready to go in the oven. They go in the middle of the oven. 440 for about 8 minutes, and then we'll look at them. And if they're not golden brown, you let them sit like another minute. And if they're still not golden brown, another minute. Up till maximum of 12, because if you get more than that, then you got hard bread instead of cinnamon rolls. Okay? Okay, so while the first set is in the oven, you obviously get the next set ready, and then you swap them. And since most ovens have more than one baking tray, you set them up on a baking tray right away. I'm just going to have to move them over eventually. Okay. 440 degrees, 8 minutes, perfect.
440 degrees for 8 minutes.
Yeah. They come up really nice. That's the golden brown you want. No more, no less. Excuse me. I'm gonna tip these off the table so we can use it again.
And can I take
the oven touch? No, you can't touch them now. You're burned.
There we go. Let's see what they look like. No, we gotta put the other ones in. So we put a blanket, towel on top of them so they don't cool down too fast. Make it dry. Keep the moisture in them. And now Sophia is putting them on this one.
Preferably you have 2 sheets. And if you're doing more, you have more sheets than that.